As Hashem Yisborach, we begin Perek Shvi, the 7th chapter in the Rambam's Hilchos of Kochavim, the laws of Avodas, B'chukas of and the statutes of those who serve it. Which now we begin a new conversation regarding the halacha of destroying Avodah and the prohibition of having any benefit from the Avodah. Rambam begins halacha alf regarding the mitzvah of destroying Avodah. Mitzvah says is a positive command to destroy the Avodah and those accessories. And anything that was made for it. Shlomo says the pasuk in the bottom. You should surely destroy the places where there's the Avodah. But then it says in the pasuk, because rather this you should do to them, their altars you should smash. And now in the land there is a mitzvah to pursue after them until we destroy them from our entire lands. But out of Eretz Yisrael, we don't have to pursue them. Rather, any place that we take over, that we conquer, then we destroy all the Avodah. That's what the Mishneh says in the pasuk in the bottom. You should destroy their name from that place. In Eretz Yisrael, you commanded to pursue them. You don't have to pursue them out of Eretz Yisrael. Now, halacha based regarding the prohibition of having benefit from Avodas. Avodas Kochavim, the Avodas and those that the servicing vessels, with the kribishal and the sacrifices, anything that was made for it, we didn't have benefit from it. Shlomo says the pasuk in the bottom. You should not bring the abomination into your house. Whoever has benefit, has pleasure from any one of these things, gets 2 sets of lashes. One because of, like we said, one should not bring the abomination, and for a different pasuk, that it should not be connected to your hand anything from this that is forbidden. Halacha Gimel. An animal that was sacrificed for Avodah Zarah. All the animals forbidden to have benefit. I feel a pitish, even if it's waste matter, and its bones, and its horns, its lofer, and its hooves, and its skin. It's all forbidden to have benefit. Now, if there was in a piece of leather, a sign that a person could know that this piece of leather to Avodah Zarah, who was a sacrifice for Avodah Zarah, they used to do, they would make a round hole, opposite where the heart of the animal was, and that's how they would take out the heart. So they call so any piece of leather that you find that round hole, a student is forbidden to have benefit. Anything similar like that would be forbidden to have anah. Now, what's the difference between Avodah Zarah of a non-Jew, Avodah Zarah shel Yisrael to an Avodah Zarah of a Jew? Avodah Zarah shel Kochavim, Avodah Zarah of a non-Jew, is forbidden to have benefit from it right away. Shlomo says in the pasuk in the bottom, the graven images of their false deities you should burn in the fire, which teaches what's Basile Mishapasu. The moment they carve it out, becomes to him his deities, Avodah Zarah. But for Yisrael, but by a Jew, it does not become forbidden to have benefit until it's actually worshipped. Shlomo says in the pasuk in the bottom, that he's going to place it in hiding, meaning until he does things which they do hidden, because a Jew who does Avodah Zarah wants to do it hidden that they don't see him, because maybe the courts are going to hear and they're going to stone him. Which is its worship. You see, only then does it become Avodah Zarah. Now, regarding the accessories of Avodah Zarah, whether from a Jew or a non-Jew, they're not going to be forbidden until it was utilized for the service of Avodah Zarah, because there it says until it was actually served. Someone makes Avodah Zarah for others. Although he gets lashes, because that's a prohibition in the Torah, but the wages he got for doing that work is permitted. And even if he made that Avodah Zarah for a non-Jew, which, as we just mentioned before, becomes forbidden right away, but because it doesn't become forbidden until it's actually finished, the job is done, then it's Avodah Zarah. Now the thing is, the last hit that finishes off the idol, that actual bang is not worth a value of a pruta, which that's halacha, what's called yishn l'schiris mitchil vatzayif. What happens is the person gets paid for every single bang he makes making the thing itself. Now, for that matter, because of that, everything up until it's finished was not Avodah Zarah yet, so that's permitted. The last bang, which makes it Avodah Zarah, that's not worth a pruta, and therefore that's not considered something of monetary value, and therefore that's not a prohibited wage. Now, if someone buys junk metal from a non-Jew, and he finds Avodah Zarah amongst all the pieces of metal, which you're not allowed to benefit from Avodah Zarah. So what do? If he paid for it, but he didn't do Mashiach, it's called drawing the items to himself, Then he should give it back to the non-Jew, because as long as they didn't do Mashiach, he's not acquired it, because by a non-Jew, it's the acquisition is with Mashiach, not with Mo'is, not with monies. Now, so to if he did Mashiach, he already took it, but he didn't pay. Although generally by a non-Jew doing Mashiach is a kinyan, but it's like a mistaken acquisition. So because you don't want the Avodah Zarah. But if Nasan Mois, so Mashach, if you gave the monies and you already took it, then you should put it into the Dead Sea, because since you already paid and you did Mashiach, it's as if it's his own, and therefore he has an obligation to get rid of it, which is by putting it somewhere where no one can get access to it. So too, a similar case by a non-Jew and a ger. So these are two non-Jewish sons, one converted, so one's a Yid and one's a Goy. They inherited their father, the non-Jew. So the convert could tell his brother, the idol worshipper, you take the idols, but I need moist, and I'll take money, in when we're splitting this inheritance. You take the wine of libations, and I'll take the fruits. The problem is, if it already came, they already divided, and then the ger finds in his possession an Avodah Zarah, then it's asa, then it's forbidden, and you can't even go ahead and exchange it, because that's getting benefit from the Avodah Zarah. Lachavo continues regarding what happens if someone finds different images. Regarding the figures that the idol worshippers make for decoration, that's permitted to have benefit from it. But the forms, the images that they make for idolatry, are forbidden. So how so? So any graven, any images that you're going to find in the village, are forbidden to have benefit. Because we're presuming that they did it for idolatry, because villagers, which are a simple type of people, they don't make these figures for beauty, they do it for their idol worship. But Medina, what's found in a city where people do make beautiful things, if it was standing there by the opening of the city, and in the hand of the image was a turas makala, the form of a stick, or tzipor, or a bird, or a kadur, or a ball, or a sayif, or a sword, or a tara, or a crown, the tabas in the ring. So these are all symbolisms of power, or similar types of things. So the presumption is that it was for the idol. It's forbidden to have benefit. But if not, then the presumption is just for beauty, mutaras, and therefore those images would be permitted. Halacha Zayin, tzlamim, statues, that are found thrown in the marketplaces, or amongst all the junk metal. So that's permitted. Why? Because what's called as a svek, as a double doubt. First of all, was it worship, was it not? We don't know. It's possible it's only for decoration. Even if it was, maybe they already nullified it. As we see, it's just like it's thrown out into the garbage, into the junk metal, or in the streets. You don't have to say if it's broken pieces of a statue, where that for sure seems to indicate that it was nullified. Now, yad, but if someone finds a hand, which is from the form of an idol, or its foot, where in other words it was initially made, the hand or the foot is its own avodah zarah, or a limb of its limbs that are thrown into the street, that's going to be forbidden to have benefit. Because since you know that it's just one limb, but it's made as an avodah zarah in its own right, which is worship, so that's in its prohibition because of the suffix. Until he knows definitively that the idol worship is nullified, only then would it be permitted, because the Kochavim could be mevatel the avodah zarah. Halacha ches, someone finds vessels. On the vessel, on the bowl, there's a form of a sun, or the moon, or drokin, which really means like a dragon, or a type of a snake that has scales and fins that are in the vertebrae of his neck, which is related to the avodah zarah of one of the planets. Now, if it was gold or silver vessels, or expensive linen garments that have a red dye in it, or it was carved out on nose rings, on regular rings, so that's going to be forbidden, because these types of forms are worshipped, and it's on something very distinguished. So it makes sense that it's for the avodah zarah. But on other vessels which are not so distinguished, so they're permitted, we presume that it's just for decorative purposes, not to worship, because it's not on such a distinguished vessel. And so to other forms, not this chama, levana, drokin, some other forms, some other decorative form. That's that's on an old vessel, meaning even if it's distinguished vessels, gold, silver, the presumption is just for decoration, then it would be permitted. It has to be chashuv and these types of forms to be asa. Halacha test continues regarding that the prohibition of the Avodah Zarah is even in the most minute amount. Avodas Kochavim u'mishamsheha, the Avodah Zarah and its accessories, all its sacrifices, are prohibited even in the minute amount. So let's say the Avodah Zarah got mixed up with other forms that were for decorative purposes. Even one in many thousands, which generally we say there's a nullification in the measurement of majority, or 1 or 60 to 1 or 100 to 1 or 1,000 to 1. No, here even many thousands, you have to throw it all to the Dead Sea, because even though it's a very small fraction, even the most minute amount makes it prohibited. So if there's a goblet of the Avodah Zarah that got mixed up with many goblets, or a piece of meat, and many pieces of meat, you have to throw it all to the Dead Sea. So too, with this piece of skin that we said that they would tear a hole in it opposite the heart, and they would grab out the heart from the living creature that way. That piece of leather got mixed up with many pieces of leather. It's all forbidden to have benefit. Let's say someone violates and he sells the Avodah Zarah, or one of its accessories, or one of its sacrifices. So then now the monies become forbidden to have benefit. Here also they make it forbidden even the minute amount. Like the Avodah Zarah itself. Because it says in the person in the bottom, it will be prohibited like it itself. Meaning, the word hayisa is like mechaya, whatever you make from the Avodah Zarah, meaning the monetary proceeds, and from all its accessories and its sacrifices, will have the same halachic status as it itself. Halacha Yud, the Avodah Zarah or the Avodah Zarah tree called Asherah that gets burned, even its ashes are forbidden to have benefit from it. And the coals of Avodah Zarah is asura, is forbidden also. Now the flame is mutar, so that's permitted. It's not considered something of substance, a flame, and therefore that would not be the Isra Bano. If someone has a doubt regarding if something is idolatry, also it's forbidden. Svek, which we mentioned before, a double doubt, a doubt of a doubt, is mutar, it's permitted. How so? So if you have a cup, a goblet of Avodah Zarah, it fell into a whole storehouse full of goblets. So kul masrim, they're all forbidden. Why? Because we said that even if it's 1 in 1,000, the mixture is prohibited, and you have a doubt on it. Is it? So there's no bittul, and it might be it. So the Avodah Zarah and its accessories, which is the cup, is forbidden even the minute amount. Now, but let's say now a cup from that mixture gets separated. Now falls into 2 other cups, which that's the third one for those 2. Now there's a majority of 2 to 1, so now there's already a sveka. Maybe the cup that separated from the first one was Avodah Zarah, or maybe not. And even if it was Avodah Zarah, now maybe this cup that is using the second mixture is not the one that fell into it. So in that situation, so then they're going to be permitted because of this bittul b'reif, of the sveka. Let's say you have a ring of Avodah Zarah. Got mixed into 100 rings. Then, so that's the first suffix. Then 2 of them fall into the Great Sea, to the Mediterranean, which we're calling all permitted. Again, because I say that ring is from one of the 2 rings, because he's also based on the principle of sveka. Maybe the ring that fell into the sea was Avodah Zarah, and even if you can say that it was a permitted one, maybe the ring that you're using is not the one of Avodah Zarah. Now, let's say the ring of Avodah Zarah gets mixed into 100 rings, and then it gets divided, that mixture. 40 goes in one place, 60 goes to another place. Now that whole group of 40 falls into other rings, they're all going to be permitted. Because I say, I could presume that the prohibited ring of the Avodah Zarah is in the majority, meaning it's amongst the other 60, and therefore this would be the same thing of not being part of the majority, and then it's mixed into another thing. So therefore, again, that would be the same principle of saying that it's permitted with this sveka. Now, but if let's say that 60 falls into other rings, kula nasuris, they're all going to be forbidden. Now, if they didn't all fall, then for sure it would be permitted, because again, then that last mixture would also have only a sveka, and they would be permitted. But if all of them fall, so it's all still that same mixture, and then you still have that one suffix, making it forbidden. Halacha Rav continues with regarding the prohibited Asherah, the Avodah Zarah tree. So ha'ashera, the ashera, which is Avodah Zarah tree, bein shayis in the Avodas, whether it was worshipped, or bein shayis Avodas Kochavim menachas tachteh, even if it wasn't worshipped itself. It's just that the Avodah Zarah was placed beneath it, where they would plant a tree to put the Avodah Zarah beneath it. Also, leisha b'tzel kamasa. Again, we're talking about the prohibition of having benefit. So you're not allowed to sit in the shade of its height. But you're allowed to sit in the shade of the branches, not beneath the branches themselves, because that you cannot have benefit, but beneath the shade of the branches and of the leaves of it. Now, if he has another way, he's not to go beneath the tree. If there's no other way, then he could go beneath it when he's running. Regarding the little birds that are nesting in the tree, but they don't need the mother bird anymore. They're permitted. But the eggs, the young birds that need their mother, assume they're actually forbidden. Why? Because like the shera is like a base for them, so that you shouldn't come to have benefit from the tree itself, and also you have to be concerned that the person might go on the tree because he's concerned they might fall, and then you might come to benefit from the tree. Therefore, that we said that those eggs and the hatchlings are going to be forbidden. Now, the actual nest itself on the top of the tree, mut is permitted, because the bird actually brings its wood from somewhere else. We don't have to be concerned that it took it from the ashera tree, and therefore that actual nest would be permitted. Halachid Gimel, notol mimeno. If it took from the ashera tree eitzim wood, asur manot, it's forbidden to have benefits. If you use the wood to heat up oven, you have to wait till it cools down. And then you subsequently will heat up the oven again with other wood that's permitted. But by then you can bake in it. If you bake bread in the oven and it wasn't cooled down, the bread's going to be forbidden to have benefit because you're having benefit from the Avodah Zarah wood. If that gets mixed into other loaves of bread, you have to go and take the value, because it's not really the bread that's forbidden, it's the benefit of what you had from the firewood. So you have to take the value of that bread and throw it to the Yamamelech, but you shouldn't have the benefit of that value of that bread. But then the other loaves will be permitted. Let's say you took from the wood shuttle, which is the weaving rod. It's made out of wood that they would tie the thread of the weft thread that we throw between the warp thread, and that's how you make it back and forth to make like a weave. So if they took from it a shuttle and they used it to weave a garment, so the garment's going to be forbidden to have benefit because it came from the ashera wood. That garment becomes mixed into other garments. Here again, it's not the actual thing itself; it caused. Then you take the value of that garment, you throw it to the Dead Sea, and then all of the other garments would be permitted. Now, you're allowed to plant beneath the ashera tree vegetables, whether in the summer months, which then the vegetables need shade, whether in the winter when the tree is actually harmful for it, then they should sell ashera because, yes, you're right, the shade of a ashera tree is forbidden. But that's ima karka. But it's not growing purely because of the shade. It's with the ground. She'enin says, which the ground is not forbidden. Both are goyim liyirakis el etzmach. They're both causing the vegetables to sprout. Oh, says the Rambam, b'chol shadava aser. V'dava mutar goyim loy. Anytime you have a prohibited entity and a permitted entity causing something to happen, it is a mokum b'chol mokum. That's what's called zev zegoyim. There's two, a prohibited and a permitted causing. That's permitted in all situations. And lefigure, therefore, sada shezibla bezevla bezikachavim. If you have a field that was fertilized with the fertilizer of Avodah Zarah, but you're allowed to go ahead and plant it because it's not just the fertilizer, it's the ground also. So to ufada shepitma bekashina bezikachavim. If you have a cow that was fattened up with the vetch of the Avodah Zarah, it could be eaten because again, there's also permitted veg. It wasn't just fat only from the Avodah Zarah. It's zev zegoyim, and anything like this will be permitted. Allah Tazvav continues on regarding the sacrifices of the Avodah Zarah, regarding the Isra Vana. Basar, the meat, or yain, or the wine, or pedis, or the produce, which were prepared to be sacrificed for the Avodah Zarah. So they didn't become forbidden just by being prepared. Even though it was brought into the temple of the Avodah Zarah, until it was actually sacrificed and not forbidden. For sacrifice of the Avodah Zarah, it becomes sacrifice. Even if they subsequently took it out, it's always going to be forbidden. Whatever is found that you see and you find in the temple of the Avodah Zarah, even water and salt, biblically is going to be forbidden to have benefit from it. Whoever eats from it, even a minute amount, will get lashes. Halacha Design continues but let's say it's in a degraded way and it's out of its place of the temple. If someone finds a garment, vessels, monies, on the head of the idol. So if you find it in a degraded way, because it could be in an honorable way too, which would be forbidden, find it in a degraded way, then it's permitted. But when some derech kavod, you find the honorable way, it's going to be forbidden because of the ornaments, the decorations of the Avodah Zarah. Kitzad, how so? So matzah kiss talabet sabara. If you find a purse hanging from its neck, in contrast to the money itself, or ksus mukapelis manachas al resho, if you find the garment folded and put on its head, because if it's like laying over, that's ornamental. Or kli kaf al resho, or a vessel is turned over on its head, so that's the degraded way. How does it going to be permitted because it's in the degraded way, and it's not considered ornamental to it to be forbidden to have benefit. Anything something like that would be permitted, but again, it's out of the temple also. Now, let's say you find on its head something shekiyitzaboy, but that it similarly is karov l'gab mizbech, is sacrificed in the by the mizbech in the Beis Hamikdash. For example, flour, wine, oil. These are things that are sacrificed in the Beis Hamikdash. Then that is also then it's going to be forbidden because most definitely they made for it for sacrifice by the Zarah, and these must be the remnants, and therefore it's going to be forbidden. Now, but when we say this to differentiate if it's an honorable way or the degraded way, is bizman shebetzon chutz l'makom avodas. It's only if you find it out of the area of where it's worshipped. But if you find it inside, within the partition that separates for the Avodah Zarah, which is where it's worshipped, then bein derech kaveh, whether in the honorable way, bein derech bezin, whether the degraded way, bein davar ol mizbech, whether something fit for the mizbech, bein davar she'in ro, whether something is not fit, kol hanimtza b'fim, whatever is found inside the sanctuary, also is going to be forbidden, afil amayim melech, even water and salt. Now, upoiru markulis, which interesting, these two Avodah Zarahs are actually worshipped in a degraded way, one by defecating and one by throwing stones at it. Whatever is found with it, whether inside or outside, also is going to be forbidden to have benefit because the fact that it's degraded is not a proof. So to the stones of markulis, even a nearest shehimai, a stone that looks like it's with it, is forbidden to have benefit because of these takrevis. Halachit Zayin continues regarding a bathhouse or a garden that's associated with the Avodah Zarah. So Kochavim, an idol, that had a bathhouse or a garden, you could have benefit from that bathhouse or garden without thanking the priest for its service, and it's not he's not having benefit from the goodness of the kahanim. But now let's say this actually belonged to the Avodah Zarah and to others. It wasn't owned purely by the those who take care of the deity. Then you could have benefit from it even with giving thanks to the priest. As long as you don't pay wages for the utility, because you're not cause benefit by the Zarah. You're paying them; it's going towards the Avodah Zarah. If there's a bathhouse that has an idol that's standing inside of it, you're allowed to bathe over there. Because it was made there just for beauty, not to worship. Because there's a buzz in the bottom, Eloi Heihem. The problem is they're idols, meaning it's only a problem when they treat it in the way of a deity. It's not when they're degrading this idol. Like here, it's standing over here by the gutter, which is taking out the wastewater, and everyone's urinating in front of the idol. But if that was the way they worship the idol, then but then would be forbidden to enter into that bathhouse. Halachit Test concludes with the knife, as it applies to this parak of Isra Hana. But regarding a knife of Avodah Zarah that was used to slaughter, which the Avodah Zarah they would use it to slaughter their animals and also to cut the piece of meat to serve and to sacrifice for the Avodah Zarah. If someone used that knife to cut something, how is it mutter? Although one's not supposed to use it, but the meat that he used for that is permitted. Because actually when the person slaughters an animal, it's actually ruining the animal, because when it's alive, it has three utilities. To have offspring, for plowing, and for slaughtering. So it has more value. When you slaughter it, it can only be used to eat, so you actually diminish its value. So actually it's not considered Isra no. But if the animal was in danger, it was about to die, then actually I raise this it's forbidden because actually had you not slaughtered it, it would have died, it would have been in the veil, it would have been forbidden to eat. So actually it is a remedy. And therefore hatikun, so this remedy is mahanois mesham. It's actually from having benefit from the accessories of Avodah Zarah, which actually would be forbidden. And you also is forbidden to cut meat with it, because that's just fixing. But if the cutting is a way of loss and of destruction, for example, let's say he takes a nice serving size for a distinguished personality, cuts it into small pieces, it actually loses significance, then actually mutter that actually would then be permitted, because that would not be considered hana and thus permitted.